Well, those numbers don't lie. It's about time I make a real tutorial anyway.
Fluid simulations!
The single greatest idea since bottled water. With them, you can create anything you want. You can make real moving water, you can make static liquid, I mean, you can even make, whipped cream. Frosting, puddles of water, rivers, I mean, there's a million different things you can do with them. Obviously, you can use fluid simulations to like make animations and crap like that, but today I'm just going to be showing you guys what you can do to make static models with it. Because for some reason, no one talks about that, and you can do some sick stuff with it. I kind of wish I could make this video 8 minutes long because, like, I want those juicy mid-roll ads, but I also don't want to waste your guys' time because this whole thing can be explained in like 3 minutes. So to make ends meet, I'm just gonna go back and work in the coal mines. Someday. So we're gonna need like 3 different components for this. We're gonna need a domain for the fluid, basically telling Blender, hey, I only want fluid in this area. Then we need a mesh to be the actual fluid, you know, the actual liquid falling down. And then we need a mesh for the fluid to interact with, something for the water to hit and like fold itself around. So we're gonna start by making the shape of the fluid. Depending on what you're trying to do, like, I don't know, maybe you're trying to make frosting, maybe you're trying to just make a puddle of water, you wanna make the fluid roughly the final shape that it's gonna be. Just to give an example, let's say I wanted frosting on a donut. Well, I would delete my cube, because obviously that's not going to work, and instead I'm going to add in a torus. If I bring up the minor radius, you can already tell, like, if this was water, it would fall in a circular shape. It's perfect for the frosting on a donut because it just automatically leaves out that hole in the center where there shouldn't be any frosting. It's a pretty simple thought process, but that's exactly what you should be thinking about when you're making your fluid. Now we just want to subdivide the crap out of this guy. I think 1 subsurf modifier might be enough, but if you want more detail, you can crank it up to like level 2 or even level 3. I think I'll stick with level 3 for now. Also, you're going to want to shade it smooth. Now scale it down a bit and put it way in the sky. Now I want like an object for the water to fall on, so I'm just going to add another cube like this, scale it up, make sure the object is quite a bit bigger than the water. Perfect. Now let's set the domain. Basically all you have to do is fit everything that you have inside of a cube. It's pretty easy, just scale it super big like that. Also go into wireframe mode so you can like see what you're doing. This is the setup that you should have. An obstacle, fluid pretty far above the obstacle, and a domain with everything inside of it. Click on the obstacle, go to the physics tab down here. It's like a little blue dot with a tiny circle around it. Click fluid, and under type, click obstacle. Now for the fluid, click fluid. And for the domain, click domain. There's a ton of settings you can mess with around here to, like, you know, change how sticky the water is, how thick it is, how runny it is, etc, etc. I'm just gonna stick with the default settings though, they are just fine. When you're all ready, just click this bake tab right here and click bake. Oh, it's cooking up nicely. Once it's done baking, you can go back into solid view and you'll see that the domain has actually taken on mostly the shape of the fluid. And this is normal. So at this point you can actually delete the original fluid obstacle, so now you just have this guy and the cube. And now, check this out, boys. The coolest thing since... I'm drawing a blank here. The coolest thing since Lego Star Wars. Click on the timeline and drag it forward. And bam, the fluid just falls like water, interacts with your cube, and splashes all over the place. As long as your PC isn't an absolute toaster oven, you should be able to just play the animation and watch the water fall and interact with the object. I'm pretty far into the animation right now, and you can already see the domain come into play. You see how the water like stops right here and around the edges right here? That's because that big cube that I fit everything in stopped at those places too. That's why it's important to set the domain to like what you want the final thing to look like, because it could spill pretty far or like not far at all depending on how big your domain is. If you're going for the static mesh too, you can pick any frame you want. Let's say, I don't know, this frame was really good for me. Alright, go into modifiers at that frame and apply the fluid sim, and then bam, like, you're done. This is now just a solid mesh. You can do whatever you want with it. Alright, well, I'm not gonna sit here like an idiot for the next 20 minutes explaining every little thing you can do with this. I've shown you the basics, I've shown you the door, now it's your responsibility to go out there and see what you can really do with this. Push your limits, do something wild. Make the most insane static fluid obstacle that anyone has ever seen. Give it like some crazy realistic texture, and then sell it on Turbo Squid for like $1 million. Water... Alright, I've done all that I can do. Go out there with this newfound knowledge and just make something sick.